Questo. Hello everybody and welcome to Paupergeddon 2024 Winter Edition here in Lecco in Italy. Beautiful chat. Hello, good morning, good evening,
hi guys,
good
welcome.
afternoon and good night wherever you are in the world. I'm Andrea.
I'm Andrea too.
So don't get confused. We're BojukaPod, a Pauper podcast. We've been casting yesterday the whole tournament and we're gonna go on today.
Yeah. We are half of the BojukaPod. We are gonna rotate for the whole days.
Yeah, we are the good half.
We are the good half, and we are the two Andreas. I'm
Yeah.
Simonet, he's Kossu, and we are gonna cast the first turn of the day, which is actually the eighth turn of Swiss.
Yep.
Because yesterday we played 7 rounds of Magic, and it was beautiful. We saw the decks that are performing well. There is some people 7-0, and I don't know what
a couple
we're gonna
guys
have
6-0
and 1.
Yeah.
There's 6-1. So there's really, I think there's just 3 players with 7-0, and I don't know if we're gonna get them on stream right now. I think they're gonna put us on a 6-1 table, which is like table 5 or 6. And
pretty close to the top row.
Yeah,
anyways.
it's basically people who still playing for the top. We're just watching people who are playing for the top, and we can see in the back that
We got our
Alessandro
special
Sapo
guest or host
is here
or
with
something.
us.
Yeah.
I'm not from BojukaPod, as you can see from my shirt. Hi guys, hi everybody.
How are you doing?
I have a question for you.
What?
What's your favorite card in Magic?
In Magic or in
Yeah.
Pauper or what?
In Magic
Like
and in Pauper.
because Magic for me is almost always just Pauper.
Okay, just asking.
I like Counterspell
A counterspell?
and Preordering. Those
And
are like
Preordering.
my favorite cards to
Okay.
play in Pauper. They make me feel good. I mean, as in Prophetic Prism, good feelings. Yeah, I miss those.
What about you, Andrea? What's your favorite card in Magic and or in Pauper?
okay, my favorite card in Pauper is Delver of Secrets. It's not played. It's not gonna be played soon. It's a good card, but it's out of fashion. It's not
Yeah?
that good anymore. But it's always been my favorite card, one of my favorite cards. Same for Lightning Bolt. If we
Yeah.
have to talk Magic in general, I would put Arcbound Ravager as probably my favorite card ever.
Okay.
Let's see what's the favorite card of the two guys that we're gonna check right now, because turns is starting.
Yeah.
Yep.
We are underway with turn number 8.
Yeah. We got Diego Barbagelata and Lorenzo Bergamini. You are Control versus W.
White.
White.
W
Glitters.
White.
Yeah. I got caught in the middle right there. Yeah. Glitters deck. We've seen a bunch already on stream, but there's a bunch
Yeah,
at the tables.
there's a lot at the
Yesterday there
tables.
were a lot. Yeah, actually like 70-ish, if I
I think
remember
it's
correctly.
74
Yeah.
blue-white glitters.
Yeah.
Maybe
And-
we're counting just Sky too in those 74, but I'm not sure. I'm
It-
sure
it-
there's not bar glitters considered. It's
Yeah,
a different
exactly.
deck.
There was
So-
at tops, I think, 150 glitter strategies, let's say, because at least one copy of Esper glitters made it to day 2, I think. Not sure about that, but many more glitter players, of course,
Yeah.
did. And that's not just counting the blue-white glitters deck we're gonna see right now. It's also the
all
Jeskai,
the
the Boros,
glitters.
and maybe some other strategies we're yet to know. And
We see on the other side we have
Yeah.
Lorenzo playing blue-red control, which is a deck that's been really popular online right now, and he's on a mulligan right here, but doesn't really
Mulligan
affect
to 6,
that
right?
much. Yeah, he mulligan to 6, but it's it's pretty comfortable being on the draw, mulligan into 6. It's okay.
That was
And-
actually one of the choices you would have made to this tournament in particular. I think you were like wondering about the tournament
I mean,
before.
I probably would have
coming here.
played the glitters if I had to play the Paupergeddon, but the deck is quite good against metagame decks. I mean, I feel like it's well positioned in this matchup. I feel like it's well positioned against Gardens,
Yeah.
BG Gardens,
Mono
and
red as well.
yeah, he's well positioned against mono red. So it's really, but I feel like he has a hard time playing in an open tournament like Paupergeddon, where there's a lot of chance that you can meet decks that are in the top 3 dogs. So you're not gonna face like 3 glitters, 3 gardens, and 3 mono reds in the whole tournament. You're
Yeah.
gonna face like 1, 2, maybe 3 of these decks, like, and so you have to play against Skullgates, familiars. That I don't feel like this matchup is really good for the deck. So I don't know.
It's
not
much more of a league deck, we could say. Like if you're
Yeah, yeah,
playing
yeah.
on MTG Online or other environments, it's pretty good because it's a meta call deck, let's say. But just to explain it for everybody that might not be familiar even with the deck, even though it's not blue-white familiars, of course. What is the payoff was asked in the chat. Usually big dudes, as in Terror, like Tolarian Terror, but you also go to the Monarchy route as well, because we've got the Pirate that gives you the Monarchy, then we got the Terrors, and I think
about the
like
Mystic?
Ogre of Bolas and
he's
Mystic,
definitely, he's definitely playing also
Murmuring Mystic, yeah.
So your win conditions are you control your first turns, you build up your graveyard.
You got
and
cheap
then
removal and
you
interactions.
you either slam a Monarch onto play and steamroll your advantage from there, or you have the plan of like, okay, well, I have 3 5/5s, you have to deal with this, and you have control, you have counter spells, so you basically disrupt your opponent as much as possible in the first turns, and then it's either Monarchs or a bunch of 5/5s or Murmuring Mystic that it's gonna create a lot of tokens to get away with the game. And we're gonna
Becomes
see
a ninja and a spread for a
we're seeing
ninja.
right now it's just there's already 2 removal spells being cast from blue-red, and Diego Barbagelata is actually doing a really good job because these removal spells are going on ninjas, but since ninjas are buybacking this Tribal Inspector, the clues are starting to
pile up.
And so I mean it's not that much of a loss of a value because every single Tribal Inspector is gonna be a card back. It's gonna give you a card back.
Fortunately, Boggles is not a popular deck right now. So
Well, it is, but it's kind of a pet deck, I'd say. Yeah, like if you really want to bring it, you can, but you have to be lucky
and it's strange
to go ahead.
because I think that all the glitters is a huge boost for that deck, but it doesn't take place in this meta game.
It actually, like,
Okay.
the example is pretty easy here. You don't have artifact lands in Boggles. I mean, you can play those, but you're just gonna get open to more answers from your opponent.
You can play 8
But-
copies of
yeah.
of Ethereal Armor, for example, and it's not so bad
Yeah.
for me, you know.
Yeah,
Okay, what-
it's fine, but not even 4 copies are played in decks. I
First of
think.
all, I'm enjoying this lack of Boggles
Yeah,
in the game. So
yeah. We're oppressed already by
Yeah.
glitter decks. but-
Okay, getting back in the game, we see actually a really important thing just happened, which is Diego managed to resolve all the glitters on Tribal Inspector, and blue-red control in game 1 has a really hard time at dealing with a resolved glitter on the battlefield because you have to make a lot of land drops to be able to kill these cards with Scred. So it's probably not feasible as a plan as of right now. Plus he's missing land drops already. And secondly, this is an important play that's gonna become important post side because Tribal Inspector, I mean, your general answer to a glitter on a beast is cast into the fire, which is played in the sideboard. But since Tribal Inspector is not an artifact, this play is the most important that blue-white glitters can have in the matchup, which is, well, I resolve the glitter and it's on a beast that you cannot remove with cast into the fire. So, I mean, I don't know if Lorenzo is playing any copies of Vapor Snap, something along those lines, like Echoing Truth might be something along
Into the
those
royal
lines.
and stuff like that. Yeah.
to the royal.
Ancient technology here.
I don't. Generally, these cards are not played, and this might mean that this game is slipping away from Lorenzo's hand. This Tribal Inspector plus Mirror is going to be really hard to deal with.
Yeah, and the scalability of the cards is the problem. I mean, as the game progresses, Scred scales from the land drops you make.
Yeah.
But
As
that
you can
happens.
see, Lorenzo cannot
yeah.
deal with the Tribal Inspector, recognizes it immediately, doesn't want to lose any more time, so he just scoops up and it's gonna bring his cast into the fire.
Yep.
And probably some kind of pyroblasts. I mean, let's see if we can figure out. I definitely see some cast into the fire. Maybe breath weapons, maybe pyroblasts.
like as you were saying, casting to the fire is a good answer, but just for artifact threats.
Yeah.
I'm not sure about the early disrupting plan that could happen, like destroying your land or actually exiling your land with casting to the fire if it's an artifact land, one of the bridge cycle. But might be cool to slow you down a bit, but I'm not sure if that's like the game plan you wanna
I think the game
approach
plan,
with the deck.
it's better to just keep the removal spell as a removal spell. So like it get rid of Mirror Enforcers.
Yeah.
It can get rid of multiple copies of Ginger Brute with
Brutes.
the second modality. So I think it's
Even
a
a
better
ninja,
removal
because
spell.
we see ninjas
Even
in
ninjas,
Diego's
but it's
list.
definitely, I think, I've tested this matchup a bit from the side of blue-red control, and every time I try to land denial my opponent with casting to the fire, he just managed to get out of Mana Screw and kill me with a Glitter Beast. So it's better to keep it as a removal spell to answer the glitter, because again, once glitter resolves, this deck has a really hard time deal with it.
Yeah,
So-
it's like there's two phases of the game. The
Yeah,
first
yeah, yeah.
one where you have to interact with cheap spells like removal or counter spells to try and not fall for the glitter trap. The other half of the game, if is gonna happen if a glitter actually resolves.
But
That's
if-
when
if
you
a
get
glitter,
an
if a
ardent
glitter
tide.
resolves, I think that blue-white glitters is actually on the easy way. I mean, it's definitely a better matchup once the glitter is on a beast. I mean, doesn't mean that
And a
Lorenzo
non-
is
and a
automatically
non-artifact
dead,
creature,
especially
yeah.
boss side. But yeah, if it's an artifact creature, glitter is a really big problem, because boss side or pre-side, that doesn't change. If there's a glitter on a Thraben, you don't have an answer for it. You
There's
just
no
have to
black removal in your
you
blue-red
have to
deck.
chum block with Murmuring Mystic tokens. That can be your answer, but you don't have a game plan to actually deal with the threat.
It's temporary, like
Yeah. It's always gonna be temporary, but Murmuring Mystic can win the game alone in
Yeah.
the spot if the right things happen.
we actually had Waltz combo yesterday on the stream. We've seen somebody playing Red Green Ponza in the Swiss rounds. I'm not sure about the other two green decks.
Yeah, I definitely haven't seen any Infect nor Mono Green Convoke, but I definitely seen some Ponza, and I'm sure there's at least one at day 2. He was on 5-2, so I don't know if we're gonna see him on the higher tables if he can, keep winning. But yeah, there could be something in that.
Our control room guy is telling us that there's a Simic Ponza that made day 2 as well.
Okay.
So that
Cool.
could be interesting. It's
And
a
we
kind
see-
of a
we
different
see that
take.
here
We actually
Lorenzo
see the
being on-
opposite of what
being on the
we've
play,
been
decides
talking
to
about.
go for the land denial, and let's see if the plan pays off.
If he draws multiple copies,
Yeah,
as he
okay,
just
okay.
did,
He
it
has
could
a
be a
second
plan.
copy,
Yeah.
so
he
the
just drew that. So
Okay.
yeah, the plan might be better this way. If you're able to destroy at least 2 mana producing
I
lands.
think Diego is actually without lands now.
Yeah.
I don't think he has a land in hand.
And yeah, we see Diego actually missing the land drop,
Yep.
and this might be. I was gonna say that earlier in the stages that Lorenzo's deck can actually, in a way, manipulate the pace of the game. Like there's the first phase of the game where he has to, or in this specific case, actually has to interact with his opponent because the threats he poses are like pretty quick on the board, and then there can be a different a change in the pacing of the game, like dropping a couple of terrors, and now it's my turn to attack, and you have to figure out how to defend yourself. So
At this point,
we're
we see
able
that-
to see this right now because it's just like drawing cards desperately to find something to put on board and start to frantically attack.
He definitely has terror in hand,
Yep.
which he put on the top with Brainstorm. That's the reason why he waited to shuffle with Ash Barrens, is because he had a Tolarian Terror on top. So he wanted to keep that so he didn't cycle Ash Barrens end of turn.
We see a lot of cantrips as well in this blue
yeah,
red deck.
As most controlled decks, blue based, it plays a lot of cantrips.
And they work pretty good with Mystic,
Yeah,
I think.
This is
Mystic.
it feels like it's gonna be a non-game. Cast into the Fire just got rid of two.
What happened to
creatures.
Glitter Lands? I was just away from keyboard 5 minutes. they was casted into the fire.
They were
Cast
gone.
into, there were 2 copies of Cast into the Fire being cast with turn 1 and turn 2, turn 3 on the play, which means that Diego barely had to play barely managed to play any spell, and so it's gonna concede.
and we really see a pretty quick game as well. Like
Diego
game 1
only-
went on the other side
Only
pretty
was waiting
fast
for the
for a
payoff.
threat. Yeah.
Yeah. You rightfully wait for the threat. Once you see that the threat it's a 4-turn clock, you're never gonna get back. My opponent has been fixing his hand for his whole 3 turns. I have no mana. I mean,
Also,
there's
the
no
Glitters
point
deck doesn't really
going
have
on.
interaction after the blue-red control
Yeah,
deck
of
puts down
course.
something as big as a Tolarian Terror, because it's more like of an aggro deck with some soft permission maybe, or some ways to make his creature evasive, and he just goes straight to the point. He cannot and does not want to interact with his opponent that much at least.
It's not in your plan to interact with creatures. Definitely, you shouldn't. That's how the deck is built and how the deck should work. But if you fall behind with this deck, it's gonna be really hard to actually be able to come back from a spot like this. Again, we see that Lorenzo being on the play, the way he played aggressively at destroying the lands paid off. Being on the draw might not be that effective because Diego will play the second land before Lorenzo, which means that he would have already played the second turn while Lorenzo can cast into the fire the first land. While right now there was a point after Lorenzo turn 2 where Diego was actually at 0 lands because he started with a top land, and so this is actually obviously gives the cast into the fire a much more effective plan, having 2 cast into the fire too.
Yeah.
Which means that, okay, this is the way Lorenzo decided to play and paid off, obviously. It's
Like, try and figure out this scenario. For example, if Diego now goes on top land, Springleaf Drum, and just like Ornithopter, even if Lorenzo decides to cast it down, actually cast it into the fire, we can have a glitter strategy anyways on turn 2 for Diego.
Barbagelata qua è perché... Poi le liste, coglione. One slippery bug on the sideboard. That's huge.
Yeah, we were checking
we're
out.
checking out the
Yeah.
deck list because we managed to
That's
reach the deck lists, and we see that actually a really important card actually hit the battlefield, which is Crimson Acolyte. Crimson Acolyte is, as all the Acolytes, actually is a card that can give your creatures protection from red.
Yep.
Which is really important in the matchup because all the lands are, or all the removal spells from Lorenzo are gonna be red.
And first of all,
It has protection from red.
Yeah,
That's
he
the
himself
greatest
has
issue
protection
probably,
from
because if you put a glitter on the creature, that's going to be a huge issue, because you're not going to be able to destroy it in any way. You can just bounce it if you have bounce spells, but as we were checking the
rarely
list,
gets played,
yeah.
By the way, we see a
there's nothing.
second time Diego is actually screwing on lands. He had the second land to play the Crimson Acolyte by casting to the fire, got rid of that too.
Yeah.
Now Diego is again screwing land drops.
Yeah. Also, there's no Gorilla Shaman for Lorenzo in his sideboard, but as we've seen, for now at least, the Casting to the Fires are actually doing a pretty good job at containing Diego swift attacks.
Yeah, I mean, I'm watching at the list, and we actually got correctly what the players would have brought in. I mean, at least for what we can see in the blue-red control decks, definitely brought in breath weapons that we saw cast last game, and cast into the fire.
what do you think about playing Volscourge in glitter in the main deck?
What do I think? I think that it's a good creature, but it's another artifact creature that suffers from the specificate against this kind of deck. So, like, you're exposing yourself a bit more. It's not necessarily like exposing yourself because there are some strategies that do not actually play artifact 8 in that matters, but it's still a 1/1, so it suffers from like end of festivities or stuff like that. So the lifelink is actually only relevant against some strategies. It's not that good for all the playing field. And flying, yeah, it's huge, but you've got ornithopters for that, I think. So I think that the new Travel Inspector is actually better, or might be.
Yeah, I mean,
we'll see in the future.
The point with Volskirch is that the point with Volskirch is that I don't see any blue-white glitters creatures that are worse. I mean, Gingerbrute can win you the game alone because it's unblockable, which is much better, and just lifelink is not that relevant in many matchups, so it can not pay off. And I think just the creatures that are being played right now are just better for the metagame. Well, we see Diego cannot draw the second land, and Murmuring Mystic hit the battlefield, which means this is gonna be really tough for Diego to actually come back. He has a lot of clues, but he's not gonna be able to do much with them because there's never been the third land has never been drawn. So
yeah. Clue tokens piling up means that you've got potential card advantage, or actually virtual card advantage. But if you're dead before cracking them, they're not used.
I don't really know how he's gonna be able to get out from Murmuring Mystic in this position. It's just this card is gonna overwhelm the whole board with birds, and I don't see how or what the plan could be in the future to get rid of it and get rid of all the tokens it's gonna make, because he has already made 3 1/1 flyers, and those are good attackers and blockers.
Yeah, and we were like praising the Acolyte at the start of the game as if it was gonna be a winning play by himself, but now all the threats on Lorenzo's side are blue, so it's just a 1/1, a play 1/1. I mean,
Acolyte
Lorenzo cannot kill that
alone. I mean, the Acolyte does not kill you the game alone. You need a threat, you need something to protect, and
you need a glitter on it, or something else to do stuff.
There's not much you can.
Besides all the threats that now Lorenzo is putting down on the table are flyers. So
yeah.
Now there's an Omnitotter, so he can absorb at least 1 damage per attack round, but maybe that's not going to be enough.
Yeah, that's correct, Tinko. 140 player.
Day 2 we are 140 players managed to play day 2, and we are it's five more rounds of Magic while we see this game. But Diego is okay.
There's finally
this is
a mana source, but yeah.
I mean, if
that's brutal.
Yeah, I mean,
Spell Pierce is huge right now.
Spell Pierce at turn,
being hit by Spell Pierce at turn 15 means that the game went wrong somehow, and just.
Yeah, the screen goes occasionally black because we are updating the screen.
The scene.
The screen scene. Yeah. That's
we see a beautiful mismatched snow-covered island there.
I mean, I prefer the snow-covered island from Ice Age. Is that Ice Age?
Me too. Yeah, I think
so.
No,
Cold
Snap, maybe.
I think it's Cold Snap.
Chat, go and fetch, please.
No,
we also see a Tolarian Terror now, so
Tolarian Terror. Ice Age,
and we see the Handshake,
from
the players.
No way out.
Yeah, there's no way out. Plus, Diego has been kind of unlucky with his land draws in game 2 and 3.
Notably, Lorenzo didn't have an answer for a glitter. Bear in mind just the Spell Pierce, but he didn't have any more answers. If the game went in a certain way, well, he actually cast a couple cantrips, so we're not sure about what he actually picked from the top of his deck. But at this moment, there were not. So how did it go? Pretty quick.
I mean, it was quick. Blue-red control definitely has an edge in the matchup, but it's also true that game 3 especially has been brutal for Diego with lands. I mean, there was just a cast into the fire that was being cast on land, but he was on the play, so he shouldn't have bothered him that much. But if you don't draw lands, you cannot play Magic.
Yeah.
So.
With just a second one, like being alive as a land drop, he would have begun cracking clues from time to time.
But
and
he probably had some cards in hand too.
Or to accelerate his board state. But that might have been enough as well. But
I mean, only the fact that you can play your 1-drops and be able to keep up a protection from Crimson Acolyte would have mattered at some extent. So at least the second land drop is fundamental to play Magic, at least in Pauper. You need at least 2, 3, maybe 4 lands to play if you're playing a game that lasts more than 4 or 5 turns. So if you don't manage to play those, it's not going to be able to.
As we can see, the UV glitter remained at 1 land for too much round, so it wasn't able to build a properly game plan. It has the Acolyte on the board, but it was totally useless because they didn't have the mana to use this ability. So of course, that's not Magic.
Yeah, you have to build your board, and then Acolyte becomes really good.
Yeah, nice, really.
Yeah.
What are you saying about 1 land? Yeah, you're right.
Sometimes 0 is enough, actually.
And we have some kind of metagame breakdown. We are not sure of the data yet. Sapo, can you confirm that it was correct? There was some adjustment to be made. I was told yesterday there was some adjustment to be made.
We had a metagame we got the day 2 metagame in a few minutes.
Okay.
So we're
probably gonna be able.
We're
gonna be probably able to tell you guys on the beginning of round 2 once we're all set.
Yeah.
And the one thing that we can tell you is that yesterday the most played deck was Black Green Gardens with 76 copies. Present in the room,
which
it was
sounds
gonna be
like a lot.
Yeah.
Sounds like it is a lot, but
it
it's
was the
11%
of the
yeah,
field.
It's 11% of the field. So
it's still a lot. I mean, for if you think about an online metagame, usually the decks are like 5%, 7% of the metagame, which is actually already high, but in the great scheme of things, that's not a big number.
When you consider a challenge that is from 50 to 80 players, from 40 to 80 players, and you compare that to a tournament that has 700 players, I don't think the percentages are gonna match up.
Yeah.
I mean, it's definitely gonna be more important. So. We have the confirmation that at the second turn, before the second turn, we are gonna have some meta breakdown news from the day 2.
And actually, they are just posting the pairings right now. So I think we are just gonna go on a quick break and prepare for round 2. So be sure to stay with us. This is Andrea. This is another Andrea. Yeah.
We're gonna rotate. We are 4 members of the BojukaPod.
We're gonna see another member now from BojukaPod. So stay at your screen, please, if you're enjoying the show, and don't leave. We're in Lecco right now. It's a beautiful city, and the tournament is beautiful as well. So
there's 4 more turns of Magic to be played.
And then we're gonna be streaming the top 8 as well.
Yeah.
Yep. So stay tuned, and we'll see you in a couple of minutes. Bye.
Bye.